What do you think? I got to ask you. I know it's not really your area of expertise, but this past week we had this fine Arab gentleman in Jerusalem who had an alternate identity as Dudu, an Israeli, as a Jewish Israeli, and he met a woman, I think, in the shuk, and they had a conversation. He told her he was a Yid, and so they went to a nearby building and had beer. They had relations, and then she found out later that he fooled her, that he was not Jewish, that he was in fact an Arab. So she went and filed a criminal complaint, because if you use deception to get sex, whether it's in the United States, other countries of the world, and including Israel, if you deceive about something that the other person is likely to regard as important, you can be charged with rape. This Arab was charged with rape, and he was sentenced to 18 months in jail for telling this Jewish woman that he was a Jew in order to fornicate with her. So here's my take on it. My take basically comes from the Bible of the pickup industry. It's called The Game, Penetrating the Secret Society of Pickup Artists. It talks about how women have this anti-slut defense. So they don't want to be perceived as slutty, and they don't want to think of themselves as slutty. That's why if you ask a guy how many sex partners he's had, typical guy will have doubled it, because he'll count someone that he felt a tip. And you ask a girl how many sex partners she's had, and the typical woman will halve it, because she doesn't count,
she only counts boyfriends.
Yeah, she only counts boyfriends. She doesn't count sex that she regrets. She doesn't count blowjobs. She's like forgotten a lot of guys. She just pushed it out of her memory, so she'll say 3.
Yeah. No, they both say 9.
Right.
They both say 9.
Yeah.
But his is really 3 and hers is really 300.
Right.
Yeah.
And so something that I found in my own experience, there's such a thing as fool's mate. If you go to bed with a woman knowing her less than 4 hours, inevitably their anti-slut defense will kick in, and they will regret the sex, and they will never have sex with you again. This has happened to me with at least 2 different women.
Oh, I'm laughing. That sounds funny.
And so you might as well get to know a girl for at least 4 to 7 hours. That's normally the minimum for a normal girl to have sex with you and not regret it. So apparently this Jewish Israeli woman in Jerusalem, it sounded like she got it on with this guy in less than 4 hours. Then her anti-slut defense kicked in. She regretted the sex. When a woman regrets the sex, women have an entirely different attitude to competition. Men were raised to compete, and we think competition is cool, and we're cool with winners and losers. Women, when they don't like competition because it threatens connection, and connection is kind of the lifeblood for women. So if women ever become competitive, let me just brush the dust off that. If women ever become competitive, they don't have a code like men do. They just become vicious frequently. So if a woman regrets her sex with you, she'll often become really vicious, and if she finds that you've deceived her in some way, she'll go on a jihad against you. Like, I've had guys who had a thing with a woman and tried to break it off, and she ended up like faxing his workplace and doing everything she could to ruin his life because he wanted to break off with her. So I think this woman's anti-slut defense kicked in. She said, "Oh, can't believe I banged that Arab in the shuk after knowing him just an hour. Oh, he deceived me. He's the rotten villain. I want to see him punished." And when women want to nail you to a cross, they don't know code. They don't know decency. They frequently just forget about those considerations. They play dirty in a way that very few men will play. And I think this is what happened here. Rabbi Rabbs has picked up the dictionary.
Yeah, here's the book I'm using. It's called the Webster's Ninth Nude College Dictionary. I haven't really time to look it up, but I had looked up these things on dictionary.com. And there's something I wanted to. Here's my take on it. I have a whole different take. You ready?
Great.
I'm based on definitions. You said that if somebody lies to a woman and plays them, that it could be rape.
Yeah.
So I looked up on the dictionary.com. I haven't had a chance to do it here, and I looked up consensual, and it talked about when people come into it, they engage in a mutually agreement, and it said in terms of business it would be a contract.
Yeah.
So there's the idea of a contract involved, right? So the idea, if something was non-consensual, it would be a breach of contract.
Yeah.
I looked at the definition of rape, and every single definition of rape talked about forcing somebody into something. It's always force, physical force, force. Mm-hmm. You forced somebody to do something. Mm-hmm. That is not the opposite of that is not the same as a breach of contract. A breach of contract is we don't have an agreement together. There's an agreement or we don't have that agreement. But I'm not forcing you to do something. Mm-hmm. So the rape is not the absence of consent. So the idea that this was not a consensual thing, so therefore it's rape, I don't believe that flies. This should not have been a rape case. This was a lack of consent case. If anything, you could say it's breach of contract. Maybe there's room for a civil case. You could sue him for damages. You could say, you lied to me, you devalued me, I used to be a virgin. Like Torah talks about, like a virgin has a certain value, and you made me less valuable. So now we have to figure out how much less valuable is this woman because this woman had sex with this guy. I'm going to guess, in this situation, this is not the first guy she's ever been with.
I guess.
And I have a feeling this doesn't devalue her one penny. Yeah. Not one shekel, right? If she had just shut her mouth, this doesn't make a shekel of difference. And, anyways, the jury's not going to find this guy guilty.
He's already been found guilty. Okay,
no, I'm saying if she sued him for breach of contract.
Oh, right.
There was no jury. There was there was a three-judge magistrate, and they found him guilty of rape. Yeah. My take on this is they're completely nuts, because it's a breach of contract maybe because he misrepresented himself, and I don't think there's any damages done. But they're certainly not rape because he didn't force anything. She didn't have to have sex with this guy. If he was Jewish, if he was telling the truth, and he was Dudu, right? Yeah, he was Dudu. Dudu, she wanted to have sex with Dudu, right? And
she expected to have a relationship with this guy, and she banged him, upon meeting.
But let's say like he was a Jew. Did he force her to have sex? He said, "I'm Jewish. Look, I've got a circumcised, I'm doo-doo with the circumcised doo-doo," And she said, "Oh, well, I have to do it with you," right? Yeah. What are we talking about here? Does she have to do it with him? So therefore, when he lied, he forced her to do something that she didn't want to do? What? There's no force here. There's no forcing her to do anything. Mm-hmm. She, on her own, decided she wanted to have sex with this guy. Whether he represented himself or not makes no difference. She didn't have to do it. So there's no rape here, and it's only at best non-consensual, and she's got a civil case, and that's all I got to say on this.
From a Torah perspective, what is virginity worth?
I think it was, somebody can look this up, but it's like 5 shekels or something. It's not 50 shekels, I think. 50 shekels. I have to look up the pasuk. It's in here.
And is that do we follow this today?
Well, normally the way it works, from what I've seen, is that there's an assumption. It's called a chizkis kashrus. It's a good question, by the way. There's what's called a chizkis kashrus. There's a assumption that everybody's kosher until proven otherwise. Okay? So every Jewish woman is considered a chizkis kashrus, and they're all virgins. Every Jewish woman who's single is a virgin. If you think she's not a virgin, then you've got to bring her to Beis Din with 2 kosher witnesses testifying that they saw her do something that
bring videotape.
Videotape's not going to help.
Wow.
You need 2 kosher witnesses, and they're going to come into Beis Din, and they're going to testify that they saw her otherwise, And I don't believe that's ever going to happen.
And play the DVD.
It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So therefore, every single Jewish woman is a virgin when she gets married. Yeah. And that's what we work with. Everybody's got a chizkis kashrus. When you make accusations against people, you say, "Oh, this person did X, Y, Z." Are you prepared to take them to Beis Din and prove that? Because if you can't prove it, then all you're doing is motzi shemra.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?